Welcome to the Hooch, where the only place more messed up than your hosts is the barracks on a Friday night or the VA. So get ready to stand by for your weekly dose of toilet humor and shenanigans from your fellow veterans, Coy Mack and Michael Grizzled Grunt Harris.
Good evening, folks. You got Coy Mack here and the one, the only Michael Harris.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So today is going to be an interesting show. We got a couple of things to cover. We got the airman who was shot and killed in Florida by the Acorn police. And
wounded,
like I
or
said,
killed.
in the wounded and killed. Yeah.
He was killed.
He was killed. Yeah.
Oh,
I just read that recently.
Okay.
He was shot to death.
Okay.
So he initially lived, but I think he died later.
Okay.
I don't know. Conflicting reporting. Anyway, by the Acorn police, the same police department that shot the Acorn, because they got scared, in some sort of cosmic irony. I don't know how that happens to the same department in two high-profile cases like this. So it should be interesting. Then we also got to talk about Joe Biden not sending military munitions to Israel because of Rafah, even though he's not legally allowed to do that, and they impeached Trump for doing the exact same thing to Ukraine.
Yeah.
So, there's that. And then we were going to talk about a little bit about Helldrivers 2 and how players can shift it to the corpos and make them change their minds by collective bargaining in the most union way possible. It was actually pretty good. It was actually pretty funny. And then we're also going to cover the Bear in the Woods. Bear in the Woods thing. Which I've been meaning to talk about.
I'm excited. I'm excited about the Bear in the Woods.
So we'll just go ahead and jump right into it since we're running late. As most of you know, you've probably heard it over the last month or so. They had been doing the whole TikTok trend of asking your man, bear in the woods, or a random man with your children or person or whatever, loved one, whatever it is. And so, like, anytime I see one of these videos, I just automatically assume this is probably going to be the end of the relationship when anybody gets on one of these trends and asks stupid questions.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Definite deal breaker right there.
It's like I don't want to be tested. Man.
No.
I don't want to be tested.
Would you rather our daughter be stuck in the woods with a man or a bear?
Stuck in the woods with a man or a bear?
Yeah, like which one would you feel like least worried about?
Like a man, like a relative man? Or like we know him, he's nice?
No, we don't know anything about the man. We don't know anything about him.
Do we know about the bear? Is the bear nice?
we don't know anything about the bear either. Like, it's just, we know our daughter's in the woods, and if you had to choose, which one would you feel more comfortable with, a man or a bear?
I mean, I know the answer, I just don't want to say it.
Why? No, just say it.
He knows better.
It's going to be a bear. I don't want my daughter with a random guy in the middle of the woods. I'd rather take my chances.
Interesting.
I don't. It's like I don't get that. Like some people look at this and they go like, why would you like? Why the bear? Why the bear?
Yeah.
And I know that man knows. I know that man is saying he's only saying the bear because that's what women expect the answer to be. He's playing the safe game. That's what he's doing. He's playing the safe game.
This is just another tactic of division, and it's another tactic to divide the sexes. We're already divided by race, religion, sex, sexual orientation, economic status. It's just all this division is putting all these people in boxes. So this is probably it was created by some fembot who hates men, and they're trying to compare men to being a bear. Now, if you're with a respectful man, a good man, you don't have to worry about those things that they're talking about. Some man doing something. There's a very small percentage of men that actually are toxic and bad, and it's true.
Yeah.
But a majority of men are good guys who are very protective. So if they want to go out there with a bear, I'll watch the show, and when they need assistance, I'll be like, "You chose the bear. I wouldn't have done that to you." So it's ridiculous to me, man. All of that.
It is ridiculous, and it's not only that, is like it's not the first time or the last time. So like here's a compilation of women answering that question.
Would you rather be stuck in a forest with a man or a bear?
Bear. Man is scary.
With a bear.
Well, I've heard about bears. They don't always attack you, right? Unless you like fuck with them. So maybe a bear.
Depends what man, but probably a bear.
Oh, 100% a bear, which is like terrifying to say, but
Definitely a bear. Some men are very scary out there.
a bear.
I would say a man.
At least one of them had a brain. At
Yeah.
least one of them did.
Some men are very scary. So you're saying there are some women out there that aren't very scary? Because
Yeah, 'cause there's
scariness,
tons of-
yeah,
Sorry, go
scariness can be on all different levels. So if I was in the woods, if I had to pick between a bear and Ronda Rousey, I would pick a bear. You know what I mean? Because Ronda Rousey is one of them women that can beat up most dudes. You know what I mean? So it's
I would still take Ronda
It's-
Rousey over the bear because like this is going under the assumption that somebody is going to attack you, right?
Yeah.
So it comes down to that men are dangerous and they can't be allowed to be safe in any scenario, regardless. So I just look at it like statistics. Okay, there's a 50-50 shot that with any person, and I mean any person, I don't mean just men, I mean men, women, children, everybody, 50% chance they're either good or bad, right? 50% chance, right?
Yeah.
There's 100% chance that bear will eat you.
and that is a true statement. But it's
But, like,
another way.
100%.
I mean, it kind of ties in what's going on in our current social, spectrum of what we're living in now is the emasculating of men.
Yeah.
The women like that don't want a man; they want a chick. They want a stud. You know what I mean? They want a guy, but they want you to be feminine. They don't want a protector. So men, we are naturally more aggressive, and we have what's called testosterone. And men can be very aggressive, but it's in our
But there's
nature.
a reason for that.
Yeah, it's in our nature. Men aren't just out here. Not all. The majority of men aren't out here just attacking women, just going in the house and going in the woods attacking women. They're not doing that.
Yeah.
So this whole movement is just another way to divide the sexes because a lot of these women are a bunch of fembots or feminazis who want to see the patriarchy destroyed while relying on the patriarchy to get what they want.
So I wanted to remind people, because like people answer this question out of context, right? So they're like, oh, would you prefer a man or a bear in the woods? And they don't think about, hey, what does a bear actually do when it attacks somebody, right? Because you're saying like, I would prefer my daughter to be in a woods alone with a bear. That's what you're saying in your brain, that's safer than being with a man, right? So I want to remind people, this is only video game footage, because I don't want to actually show you a bear mauling, of what could possibly happen to you.
Yes.
So, putting that into context, you would literally rather your small tiny daughter alone with that versus a man.
Yeah, and think about this. This is why you shouldn't take these people seriously. These same women that are saying this, that are spouting this, are the same ones that say it's okay for a man that thinks he's a woman to go into the little girl's bathroom. That's okay though.
That's
we don't want to be in the woods with a man, but a man dressed as a woman, yeah, they can go use the bathroom with my daughter. This is why you laugh at them because their logic is flawed.
It is flawed.
Sit on that. Think about that. For you women that believe that you would probably rather be in a wood line with a bear than over a regular guy. And we're not talking about the toxic men. We're talking about the good guys. And you're putting us in that group. You would rather for a grown man with a beard in a dress to be able to use the bathroom with your little girl.
Yeah.
But then
but
be in the woods with a bear. That makes no sense.
Like I said, it's like men think about how to take on a bear in the woods. Like they've had this thought, just like how many times do you think about the Roman Empire? I mean, fairly often. How many times have you thought about surviving a bear attack? I mean, I've thought about it a time or two. I think every man has thought about, hey, could I take on a bear? Like, it's a stupid thought, but we think about it every now and again.
I mean, I actually thought about it last night.
So, like, how many women think about how many times they're going to take on a bear? You think that's something that crosses your mind on a daily? Like, just, hey, should I take on a bear? It's like, probably not. Like, it just is like, you're like, okay, a man is more scary than a bear. And it's like, I don't think so. I don't think so. At least you have a chance with a man, because he's at least, he might be a little bit stronger than you, but there are things to make it equal.
Yeah.
You're not being equal with a bear.
No. And the thing, Lynn said that many conservative women choose the bear on TikTok. And that's true, but a lot of those conservative women are clout chasers. A lot of these women
just following the trend.
They're clout chasers. They're just following the crowd. They're going along with the trend because it gets them clicks. It's all clickbait. They don't believe that. If we can prove it, if we had the ability to make that happen, all the women that say that, I'd rather be in the woods with a bear. Okay, let's call your bluff. Let's call it.
I just showed you the video.
Yeah, we're going to put you in the woods with a bear, with a big grizzly bear. You know what? Maybe a Kodiak. We're going to put you in the woods with him and see how long you'll survive. See what you do.
Well, hell, even a black bear is probably going to mess you up pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be, you know, a grizzly. I mean, a black bear is still fairly large, but it'll still mess you up just the same.
Yep.
So
this whole movement is just, it's clout chasing. It's trendy. You know, that's the problem with our society. People just jump on a trend just to jump on it, just to be a part of something. Individualism has gone out the door. So this is all just collective, NPC mindset. This will fade away. Give it about a few more days and it'll go away, and then the next trend to come on. That's why, guys, we need to start a trend. Would you rather be in a swamp with an alligator or in a swamp with a woman? Who would you pick?
That's actually, yeah, that would actually be funny. So, like, I think most men would be like, yeah, the alligator, because at least it won't tell me everything I'm doing wrong.
That's right. And all you got to do is hold its mouth shut and it can't open.
That's so true. Like, I've seen dudes smack alligators on the head with a freaking frying pan, man. Like, an alligator ain't much. Like, I wouldn't do that with a bear. If it's a woman, between a woman and a bear, I'd probably take the woman, even though it'd be probably annoying. I'd still pick that over the bear. I'm
going to start that. I'm going to, just to see where people's minds are at. Just to do it. Just be like, alligator with a woman, alligator in a swamp, or would you have in a swamp with a woman? What would you pick?
Yeah, most guys would be, I'd rather take the alligator.
I'll take
the alligator. Might be a little fast, but I could do something to it.
And I can eat the alligator if I kill it, if I get hungry.
Right. So I'll take the alligator because, like I said, at least it won't tell me everything I'm doing wrong.
And just understand, we're being facetious here, but I'm not one of those people.
But no, that was funny because, like, there was a meme about that with the bear, where the bear and the dude were hugging. And it's like a day with the woman, the bear comes up and says, "I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry." Not all. Yeah. I am a protective person, especially when it comes to women. But
no, what you should do is amend that. Would you rather be in the swamp with a female, with not a female, but just like a feminist, a modern feminist, or an alligator?
That's better.
I would rather be with the alligator.
Yeah, if it came to a modern feminist and an alligator, I'd pick the alligator. Because the alligator is not going to talk about the patriarchy.
Yeah, choose the bear. At that point, it's like, would you rather be in the woods with a bear or a woman? It's like, I'd choose the bear.
I mean, here at the end of the day, these women like this, those women, the ones that buy into that crap, are probably very, very lonely, and they'll probably be very lonely for the rest of their lives. Because if they, in their mind, if they think that every man is like that, they'll never meet a good guy. Because women that think like that, you can meet the greatest guy ever. The guy that's just like perfect, but in your mind, you already have this thought of how men are, and then you lose that guy, and then the next guy you meet is going to be opposite of what this guy was. Yep. And when it comes to the dating scene, not all. And I'm gonna speak about being a guy. When it comes to dating women, a lot of women push the nice guy to the side, or the good guy, because I'm not nice, I'm good. And then they wonder why they're in this vicious circle of toxic men. And those are the women that are picking the bear, because they push that one guy away, that one that they think about all the time. and then they're just in this vicious circle of toxic guys. So then they're the ones saying, "Oh, I'd pick a bear over a toxic guy, over a guy," because you pick.
Well, they're assuming that all men are
pick
toxic.
those guys.
That's the kind of the problem.
Yep. You pick those
That's
guys.
also the same reason why we would choose the alligator over the feminist, because we know she's toxic.
That's true. Well, not all women are toxic, but
no, I said all feminists are toxic.
Oh yeah, feminists, yes. Depending on what type of feminism, because there is, traditional.
I said
feminism.
modern feminist.
Yeah. So
modern feminist.
yeah, we want the audience to know there is a difference in feminism. There is modern, which we have this
There's spectrum.
This thing now, and then there's the traditional feminists who believe in the same thing but aren't like the modern ones who want to be masculine,
who are literally just man hating, like
they want to be masculine but are scared of men. It makes no sense. You want to be masculine, you want to carry yourself like a man, thinking you can do everything a man can do, but you're terrified of men at the same time.
They wanted a chiseled jawed woman with a dick.
Makes no
That's
sense.
what they want. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they want a stud. They want a man to be a stud. They want us to be feminine and carry ourselves like a man, but don't be so manly. God, we're doomed.
Let me see if we can find a photo of that. It's like a female, a feminine Chad. I think that's what a feminine
Chad.
Chad, yeah. Let's see if somebody's made an image of that. I want to see what that is. Feminine Chad.
I'm a traditional guy, man. I like a woman that's feminine, but can get gangsta at the same time. I want a super feminine, but has another side. That she can thug out if she needs to and throw hands.
Okay, I think I found exactly what they're looking for. It is this.
Yeah, what is that? See, that's how they want their men.
A feminine Chad.
They want us wearing lipstick and eyeliner, and that's a man to them. With these modern feminists, a real man is a feminist.
Yeah.
It blows my mind how these men say they're feminists. I just don't get it. There's two things. There's a masculine and feminine. Without one or the other, you can't. There's nothing. Can't have a man acting like a woman or a woman acting like a man and in the same relationship. If I wanted a woman that was super masculine and acted like a man, I might as well just date a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want
that. Might as well at that point.
Yeah, might as well just date a dude. The same vice versa with a female. She wanted a chick. If she was dating a dude that acted super feminine, not gay, but just feminine tendencies, you might as well just date a woman.
Maybe that's why gay men have happier marriages.
That's true. That is true, because statistics say that gay men stay together longer than.
Yeah, they do, because lesbian couples also have the highest rate of domestic violence.
Yes.
Over gay men, which is funny.
But we're not going to talk about that, though. Would you rather be in the woods?
We're not going to talk about those statistics.
Would you rather be in the woods with a stud or a bear? Because
would you rather be with a man or a bear, and then go with a bear every time? But
makes no sense.
It's stupid. It really is stupid. So another stupid thing that happened this last week is the Sony Helldrivers 2 debacle. I know that a lot of people don't follow this because it's in the gaming space, especially some of the people that watch our show, but this is really important in another way. Is the fact that Sony was bullied into changing a decision to require their PlayStation Network account on computers, by the way. So this whole thing comes about because Sony, in their infinite wisdom, wanted to force players to use the PlayStation Network accounts in order to play the game on PC, on Steam, which they originally had planned to make it so on Helldivers 2, 6 months before the game launched. They required Airhead Studios to implement this program, but during launch, it didn't work properly and was stopping people from playing the game, so they turned it off, right? And then a couple of months later, Sony's like, hey, you got to turn that shit back on. And they said, hey, we're going to do that, and then the players revolted and then massively downvoted in mass to upwards almost to 300,000 people leaving a negative review on Steam to tank the game. These people love the game, by the way. They absolutely love the game. And because Sony decided to do this, they said, nah, we're not having this. There's no reason for us, and there's no incentive for us to log into a PlayStation account when we don't have a PlayStation, for one, and two, we don't need it to play the game. to begin with, right? And plus, I want to put it out there, Sony has a very terrible track record with keeping players' data safe.
Yep.
They've had multiple hacks that have led to people losing their personal data to the dark web. So they wanted you to force players to log into the account when they didn't need to in the first place. And so they took a massive L, and even to the point where Sony's like, okay, this was like the official tweet earlier this week. Helldrivers fans, we heard your feedback on Helldrivers 2 account linking update. The May 6th update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network accounts linking for new players for the current players beginning May 30th, will not be moving forward. They were like, yeah, sorry, we give up. I'm sorry. It was our fault. Our mistake.
In the chat, they said it's all about money, man. And we've said that many times.
Yeah.
Everything's about money now. They don't care about the customer at all. It's about what can they benefit from it. We can ruin it, even though the customers don't want it. But how can we benefit from this ruin? And it backfired on them, which is good.
And one of the funniest things about this is the developers actually. So these lines right here are the actual Steam negative reviews that happened, right? So they actually are going to implement. This is a fan-made cape, by the way, but they're actually going to implement this design in the cape. They just haven't named it yet. So like even the developers are kind of thinking this is funny. I'm sure Sony doesn't find this funny because once Steam started actually giving refunds for people, they're like, okay, we gotta stop that and nip it in the bud. Because it was bad. It was real bad. And it's not like the whole thing about it is that it's not a terrible game. It's a great game, which a lot of people love. And the other thing is the fact that it's still delisted for 177 countries. So that one of the big issues with the PlayStation linking account is that PSN is only available in basically Western countries. Like only 69 other countries is it available in, which is most of like South America, North America, and Europe, and a handful of other places in the East. That's it. Everything else wasn't available to these players who already bought the game. They bought the game, they had been playing the game, and then they said basically, yeah, you're not going to be able to play it. Or if you want to play it, you have to get a VPN, even though a VPN goes against Sony's terms of service, which would allow them to ban them for using a VPN in the first place. So like the corporate greed side of them got a little too overboard, and they just wanted to pump up their PSN numbers, and they made a mistake by doing so. And now PC players are like, no, we're not playing that game. We're not doing that. That's not what we want to do. I don't want to have to sign into a third-party program just to play my game.
Yep, I agree.
And this is how the corporations have been for the last few years, where they make you do something you don't want to do. Like take a look at like the reason why this is so important is because of the corporate wars that we're having with like Disney and other places with all their woke BS. It's the same thing. It works when you bully companies into changing what they believe, right? So if you want Disney to stop preaching certain things, bully them into stopping. It works just how Sony capitulated to PC gamers. Because they hit them in the pocketbook. They hit them in the reviews. They bombed their scores, and now they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. And so it works. We have to do that in the culture war in order to maintain our edge. Like I said, like Helldrivers 2 is a great game. Like I don't know if many people had seen it, but it's fun to actually play. One of my favorite things is actually seeing JDAMs going off, which is always fun. Like I'm not gonna lie, it's fun. So it's like Starship Troopers and Terminators had a baby, and you get to play it with your friends. So I love it. And it's a fun game. It actually teaches cooperation, like I said. And one of the other things is that I like about it, the friendly fire mechanics of the game is fun, and you could actually use it with a fire team in training if you wanted to. Like we were talking about like the ISMIT training and stuff like that. Like it actually teaches you a lot of tactical issues that people would face in the field. Like fire and communication is being a big issue in this game. Like you have voice comms, and if you're not communicating with your team, you don't know what's happening. And then you die.
And you're gone.
Yeah, exactly. So like these, no, exactly. These graphics are
PC?
amazing. And this is PC and PlayStation 2. Or PlayStation 5, so wow, PS2.
Oh, I might have to get me a PC. A good one. This game, I mean, I would play video games for something like this, but I'm not a PC player, so if I don't have a controller, I won't be able to play.
Right, and the best thing about this is the game is only $40. It's not a $60, $70 game. It's only $40.
I don't know. We were just talking backstage. I gave my PS5 to my son, but I might have to get a PS5 again just for this. Those damn things.
It's so cinematic. There's like some of the best gameplay out of this thing is just like all the crazy things and chaos that happens. Like getting surrounded by a bunch of bugs. And you're like, run away.
Holy crap.
But it's a high octane fun game, and that's why people loved it, and that's why people got upset that PlayStation decided to pull their nonsense. Right? And it's a good game. It's $40. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg, and they actually care about the game. So
yeah, looks pretty good. It looks decent. I might have to look into it. I don't have a gamer PC though. You know, I don't want to spend an arm and a leg for that either.
Yeah, I think most people of a certain age are past that. But I mean, still, they're okay. So there's a grandmother that plays WoW in the guild that I'm in, like World of Warcraft. She still plays, and she's like in her like 60s.
Yeah, I know some older people that play games. Master Chief, yeah. You know, when it comes to Halo, someone brought up Master Chief. That was one of the reasons I bought Xbox. And then there was that other game. Remember that game where the guys, they had the little blades on their weapons? Remember, and they used to go up and chop the monsters in half. What was that game? I bought it for that one too.
You're talking about Gears of War?
Gears of War. Yeah, I remember I bought it for Gears of War. And then for PlayStation, I bought PlayStation for Destiny. I love Destiny.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong. Like it doesn't matter how old you are. You can still get into games, right? There are people like I don't know if you've seen this video. Have you ever seen the grandpa that does all the sniping stuff?
Yeah, that was good.
Like that dude is like, I need to bring that up because like it's just
he's like a World War II vet.
He's not a World War II vet, but he's like I think he's a Vietnam vet is what it was.
Oh.
But yeah, he even streams. He's a streamer.
Yeah, that's cool, man. When you have somebody, and you know, when it goes back to like the dating scene and all this stuff, you got to have somebody that chemistry has to be there, and you have to have things in common. And you know, a lot of that toxicity when it comes to that stuff comes from people that don't have chemistry, and then women pick toxic dudes. So find a dude that's a gamer or play video games with you. Bond a little bit.
They're not doing a lot of stuff, but like this dude is like super good too.
Save your bacon.
Thank you.
He is good.
But like just people enjoying.
For you too, buddy.
And he's got steady hands too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I hit him
but
about
you should see some of the shots he's
15
taking.
yards
Like
from your back.
There was one shot he did like over 2,000 meters away. Like it was pretty crazy that he had done.
I mean, I've done that.
But he plays every single time, and he's like pops.
He was a sniper, right?
Yeah, he was a sniper in Vietnam, I believe.
Yeah, that's why. He understands how the scope, how the sight works.
It's like headshots.
See his lead?
Every single time, yeah.
That lead,
You're
man.
missing out then. You're missing out. But it's just an old dude enjoying a game, man. Just an old dude enjoying a game. That's the way it should be, man. It's like people in their element being happy.
Yeah, everybody has their preference with dating gamers. I date a gamer girl before I date a party girl.
Yeah, because at least she's at home, not being at home.
At least she's at home chilling. I dated a gamer girl who worked at Taco Bell before I date a party girl who was a millionaire.
Yeah.
Max.
And also you can always find a gamer guy because he's usually on the couch with his game. He's not out doing
He's not out partying as long as he's handling his business, taking care of everything he needs to take care of. If somebody wants to sit there and play video games all day after they've worked a long week and done what they had to do it.
Yeah,
I'll join you.
And we're not talking about people with addictions because there's a difference between like somebody who games and somebody who has an addiction. Just like somebody's like, oh, they don't game, but they drink all the time. It's like, that's called an addiction.
Yeah.
You rather prefer the guy drinking all day or the guy gaming all day? I'll take the gaming all day every time over freaking somebody drinking all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing, man. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because, like I said, you can stand up to corporations. Gamers can do it. We can do it. Everybody can do it. We need to stop these corporations from doing things that we dislike with our money and our reviews. So if you don't like something, review it to hell.
And we've talked about this before. That's the way you shut them down, is you got to hit them in their pockets, man, because they rely on our money in order to keep functioning. So like this game, shut it down, hit their pockets. They backed off. And that goes to
that was an addiction problem.
And you've seen it time and time before when it came to Target and Starbucks, how the consumers got involved, taking money from them, and they didn't like that. So it's an easy way to shut down a lot of businesses, especially corporations, not small businesses, but these big corporate businesses. You got to hit them in the pocketbook, man. They don't like that.
Right. It was just funny. There's always that meme of like, stop hurting my multi-million-dollar corporation.
Please stop.
Right. So like, there's nothing wrong with enjoying things in moderation, just like everything in the world. Drinking in moderation, eating in moderation, gaming in moderation. Everything is in moderation. If you overdo it, then maybe an intervention is needed in those people's lives instead of everything else. But moving on from that into the more serious stuff for the week, we've got a report coming out of Florida today. This is actually a today issue. Sorry, I had sun in the background going, oh no. I don't know if you can hear that or not.
Yeah, I hear it. I always hear it. Not always, but I know he's back there. You're good, man.
Anyway, I'll just move on. So they've got the reporting coming out of Florida. I'm going to bring up the news report while we get that situated in the background.
3-year-old Roger Fortson was killed last weekend. We know that. The Air Force says he was a senior airman deployed with the Special Operations Wing at Hurlburt Field in Florida, and he died at his off-base apartment. A local sheriff's department says a deputy was responding to a disturbance call when he encountered an armed man and shot him. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump says that Fortson was on a FaceTime call with a woman. According to Crump, she says that Fortson was alone when someone knocked on the door. But when he asked who was there was no response. After a much more aggressive knock a few minutes later, Fortson checked the peephole but didn't see anyone. And that's when the woman says that he became concerned. He got his gun, which he owned legally. Then deputies burst through that door, saw him with the gun, and fired. According to Crump, the woman said there was no disturbance during her call with Fortson, and she believes deputies went to the wrong apartment. The lawyer, Ben Crump, issued a statement. In part, it says, quote, "We are calling for transparency in the investigation into Roger's death and the immediate release of body cam video to the family. His family and the public deserve to know what occurred," end quote. Now, the deputy who shot Airman Fortson has been placed on administrative leave. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the local state attorney's office will investigate this shooting.
So they're going to investigate themselves and find that nothing wrong happened, because that's usually how these things go.
Let me ask you a question. If someone was to say that Coy shot someone, do the cops allow you to stay home while they investigate?
No, they put you in jail.
They put you in jail. So what should have happened was that officer should have been put behind bars while the investigation is going on. You don't get to just go out and live freely. Because to me, the way that sounds, that would be deemed what? Manslaughter, murder.
Yeah, at the very least.
You just get a little leave while we investigate. But if I did that, I'd be behind bars while they investigate. It's just the whole judicial
even if it was
system.
Legitimate self-defense, they would put you behind bars.
Yeah, the whole
system.
system.
You have to defend yourself.
The whole system needs to be revamped, man. And we're not anti-police. We're not we always say that. We believe in justice, man. We believe there's good and evil. We believe right is right, and there's no way anyone should knock on anyone's door, whether you wear a uniform or not, without identifying yourself. Now, if this person was a bad person and the cops did identify themselves and then he grabbed his gun and did, so be it. But you never identified yourself. He didn't know who you was. You're banging on his door in a stand your ground state. Yeah. He's worried, but he's just an Air Force guy that was just probably home chilling. last weekend. You knock on his door. You didn't respond. You knocked again aggressively. Of course, he's going to grab his gun. You kick open his door in a warrantless search, and you shoot the kid. And it's just like, oh, we'll just put you on administrative leave. We're going to do our
That's what's being reported right now, according to this Expos, is that he was on a FaceTime call when he got a knock at the door. When Folsom went to the door, he asked who was there. Nobody responded. So this is the sticking point I have with the situation, is that nobody responded. So if a police officer does not identify themselves when knocking on the door, you've already done the wrong thing. Not only that, that wasn't even the first thing they did wrong. The first thing they did wrong was go to the wrong house. Because, I don't know, to me, the basic of policing is knowing which house you're going into in the first place. Like, how many times have we heard this where somebody goes to serve a warrant and they got the wrong house and they shoot and kill somebody?
Yep.
It happens way more often than it should. Like, that is the basics of your job, is to get the address right for the person you're trying to serve a warrant to. Like,
and you
literal
confirm. You confirm over and over again, is this the right place? Give me the address again. What does the house look like? What does the individual look like? Then you knock on the door and you do your thing. But a lot of times these officers are scared. And you said it was the same incident with the Acorn.
Oh, yeah, I'll bring that up in a second. Yeah.
And they just started blasting. You know, it's just like, are you scared? Like, if you're that scared, maybe you shouldn't be doing the job, because Coy and I, as veterans, have been in a lot of hairy situations, more than just gunfire at us. But we still had a certain level of ROE we had to abide by, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a combat zone, and we had stipulations on when we can return fire, our change of posture, you know, all that stuff goes into effect, and it happens fast. But we don't just go around, oh, there's a gunshot over there, we just start blasting, you know, indiscriminately, just blasting into a house. Oh, nobody cares. No, we go to jail for that. Instant.
Yeah, 'cause, like, for us, we had our ROEs in Afghanistan. It's like we had to shout, or no, it was a shout, show, shove, then shoot. You had to, then you had to do those steps before you could do it. If you went shout and then you shot a civilian, you're going to jail for a war crime,
and
which happened to a lot of dudes.
And one of those steps can be skipped, like shove, because shove, they would have to be,
obviously.
Its situation dictates it. But we did have to show, shout, or shoot, or shove, depending on the situation. You just don't get to draw your weapon and start blasting for, you know, somebody, and then say, oops.
We weren't even allowed to shoot people that had AKs, even though they were probably the ones shooting at us just 5 minutes before. Even if they threw it on the ground and we knew they were combatants, can't shoot them now. Can't shoot them now, even though you know those were the guys who were shooting at you. You still had to, like, let them go. Cops in the United States, they would be like, nah, we shot him anyway.
Oops. Well, you know, Internal Affairs is going to look into it. You know, the associations, they're going to cover all your lawyer fees, so don't worry about it. And that's the problem with policing. And you see it all the time with, you know.
Yeah, good luck with NCIS.
It's I'm videotaping you too. Then when they do something then they're not supposed to do, they know that the association is going to cover all their lawyer fees. That's not coming out of their pocket. That's why they're so, get a lawyer. So now the citizen has to prove something with a lawyer, pays all these lawyer fees to get cleared of whatever it was, and that cop continues to go on and doing the dirty work that they do. And you see this all the time. This is why Coy and I talk backstage, qualified immunity, not just policing. Every level of government, everybody needs to lose qualified immunity, because they are citizens just like us.
Yeah, you're citizens first. And that was the other thing that we said backstage as well, is, like, my opinion is that if you turn off your body camera or you don't even turn it on, that's at least a fireable offense. And if not, it should be a criminal offense that you turned off your body camera, because there's no reason or rationale that you should, when interacting with the public, turn off your camera. Especially if it's mandated by your department, it should be on whenever you step out of your vehicle. It should be automatically turned on as soon as you step out. Like, that should be something that they don't even have control over, right? As soon as they leave their car, it should automatically turn on, and they can't turn it off until it gets back in or dies, one or the other. And that's the only legitimate reason that your camera isn't working, is because it died. That's it.
But again, and we wouldn't be talking about this if there wasn't proof out there that this actually happens.
Yeah,
and
it happens all the time, man.
It's the whole association is the problem, the union. because they know that the union is going to cover them. And I can speak. I've never done anything when I worked for the sheriff's department, but you hear about joining these associations, and they cover this, they cover that, they cover this, they cover all your lawyer fees, they cover anything that's happening. You still get paid. It shouldn't be that. It's your citizen. If you accidentally shoot someone doing your job, you should be well trained, more trained than the average citizen, and you should be held accountable for that shooting. If you shoot guns at a vehicle because of an Acorn, you should be held accountable, because if a citizen did that same thing, they'd be locked up in jail. You should be held accountable for the same thing. Yeah. Citizens not trained. Not all.
So here's some of the other reporting is that they were there was another aggressive knock at the door, and according to the woman on the other side of the FaceTime, then Fortson looked for through the hole of people, and he didn't see anybody. So they didn't answer. They didn't show themselves, right? So they were ready to enter the house over a domestic, by the way. Forgetting the fact of all this other stuff, they were responding to a domestic
in a stand your ground law state.
They were responding to a domestic, and they were hiding like they were serving a warrant.
Yes.
Why? As a domestic, you're supposed to be there to mediate, right? That's what you're going to do. You're supposed to mediate a fight between a husband and wife, or whatever's happening. If there was a man and woman fighting, which was the original purpose of the call. But you go in there like you're going to be a SWAT team and freaking bust down the door for what reason? Nobody knows. Nobody's answering that question, right? And so he legally owned a firearm, and then he returned to the living room where the police knocked down the front door and then shot him 6 times out of self-defense.
Again, we need to go back to constitutional law.
Yeah.
If we just went to constitutional law, there would be nothing to violate. At the end of the day, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It doesn't matter what their codes are. It doesn't matter what man-made laws. Any law that they tell you about that tries to trump the Constitution is unconstitutional. Period. And if we just go back to constitutional policing, everyone goes through a constitutional course that lasts about 2 months. I don't know, however long. I know in the academy, you go over the Constitution, you talk about the rights, and you talk about all that stuff, but it's a very short class. And then you take a test, and they ask you the amendments and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, Constitution needs to be supreme law. So when you approach someone, that officer needs to understand that, is this constitutional? A lot of times they don't care that it's constitutional. They're willing to violate your rights because they're either scared or they're just trying to fix a problem. Yeah. At the end of the day, if you're violating anyone's constitutional right, you lose automatic qualified immunity, and then you should be held accountable for violating those rights, because the Constitution is the supreme law.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
And here's part of the conference that they had. This is the AP reporting.
And when the Okaloosa County Sheriff's deputies came to his apartment, he was shot 6 times. He had that right to the Second Amendment. He had that right to the Fourth Amendment. Roger Fortson was the best America had to offer. He was a patriot. He was a U.S. Airman, Special Ops. I mean, he was fighting for our way of life.
And that's like the saddest thing of this, is that he had all those rights, and every single one of those rights were violated because they couldn't do the basics of their job. And this kid's dead because of it.
Lack of training. That's what happens when you get DEI, but that's another story.
That's another story for another day.
But at the end of the day, man, the veteran community is one of the last communities you want to make mad. Especially as, Generation Kill guys, global war and terror guys. You don't want to piss those guys off, man. I mean, you remember that story about a Ranger battalion shutting down a whole dang neighborhood because some thugs were threatening this Ranger, and the whole Ranger battalion showed up armed to the teeth.
Yeah, that whole shootout. Yeah,
you remember that? That's how it could get, because veterans are very connected. Very, very, very connected.
It could get that bad.
It could. So they got to be very careful when you're dealing with certain people. And you got to be respectful, follow the Constitution, and don't go in there guns a-blazing, because if it comes out that this shooting is unjustified, which it will be,
you
got a whole nother thing you have to deal with after that. You have
So
a whole nother issue.
Yeah, which I'm bringing this up, Retro, is the fact that this is the same department that last year shot up cars because they thought they were getting shot at because of an acorn.
Yeah.
The same department. In the most weirdest cosmic irony thing possible, the same department that got afraid of acorns dropped by a squirrel couldn't do the basics of their job. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised, but I'm surprised at the same time that these people are allowed to keep their jobs. I'm not saying they're the same police officers, but it's the same department, and I'm just going to go with that. And before we move on to the next topic, I'm going to show you the original video of said cops shooting up because of an acorn.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
Remember, this is because of an acorn.
The guy in the car is probably like, what the hell is going on? He's hit.
Yeah, which is the funniest and dumbest thing about this. So these are the same department that are claiming they shot this kid in self-defense. The same department.
Wow.
That shot up a car with a suspect in it who couldn't defend themselves while they were shooting because of an acorn. Let that sink in. Just let that sink in.
Again, if you're too scared to do the job, don't do the job.
Yeah.
You know, if you're that scared, just take the uniform off and go work at Burger King, man. Because that's fear. That means every single day when you put on that uniform, you're walking out fearing what's going to happen. Every time, you know, in combat, we go on patrols or and I've been on so many, there was never any fear. I didn't have fear because I was trained. I understood what I was capable of. And that's many of us. We understand what we're capable of. We were trained to react in a situation because fear makes you make poor decisions. So when you do stuff in fear, you make poor decisions. You always had to keep a level head no matter what was happening. Keep that level head.
Yeah. So I likely believe the family in this report, because that department has already shown that they can get scared by acorns. Imagine what they would do seeing a gun because they entered the wrong house in the first place because they couldn't do the job properly. They have to be charged. They should be in jail. I think, like you said before, is like anytime that a shooting is in question like this, where there's not anything clear if it was like in the line of duty or not, they should be put in prison at least until they can figure it out, and they should go through the judicial process just like anybody else would for self-defense. You need to justify yourself to a jury of your peers of why you thought it was necessary to do that action. It shouldn't be on the department. It shouldn't be under internal affairs. It should be under the judicial system to figure out if it was legitimate self-defense or not. Just like a citizen would have to go through a court case for self-defense, even if it was justified.
Yep.
Same thing, man.
Same exact thing.
So moving on to Israel and their justification of self-defense, which I have issues with at this point, because like originally I was with them when Hamas attacked and they went after them after October 6th. I think it was
7th.
7th, right? I don't know why I was thinking 6th. Anyway, on the October 7th attack, but at this point, it's hard to justify it as self-defense, as I keep putting it when I think about it. It's like you saying you were defending yourself, so you shot and killed a guy, but then you went to his house, murdered his family, and burned down his house, right? That's what it feels like Israel is doing to the Palestinians at this point. It's like, yeah, we're defending ourselves, but we shot the guy, but now we're going to go to his house, kill his family, and then burn down his house. It's like, that's not self-defense anymore, dude. That's murder. That's just plain murder and arson. Like that's what you're doing. So like I get you're going after the bad guys. That's cool and all. But like I'll discuss it later. Like what they're doing, if we had done that in Fallujah, like it would have been much easier to just level Fallujah to the ground instead of going door to door and losing all the people that we did. When we're talking about thousands of people that were injured in the assault on Fallujah, it would have been much easier to do what Israel's doing to Palestine and just flatten it to the ground, which is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'll show you footage later of what they've been doing. But Biden has finally said, okay, they've crossed the line. Finally, he's saying they crossed the line. But the problem is The problem is he's stopping congressional funding to Israel that has already been appropriated, which is the exact same charge they impeached Trump over with Ukraine. Remember that as you listen to this.
I want to ask you about something happening as we sit here and speak, and that, of course, is Israel is striking Rafah. I know that you have paused, Mr. President, shipments of 2,000-pound U.S. bombs to Israel due to concern that they could be used in any offensive on Rafah. Have those bombs, those powerful 2,000-pound bombs, been used to kill civilians in Gaza?
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. And I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem. We're going to continue to make sure Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome and their ability to respond to attacks like came out of the Middle East recently. But it's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells.
So, just to understand what they're doing right now in Rafah, is that not going into Rafah as you define it yet?
They haven't gone into the population centers. What they did is right on the border.
They're just putting the tip in, right? They're just putting the tip into Rafah. They're not going into Rafah. They're just doing the little tip in. just a little tip. That's all. Just a little tip.
We shouldn't even be involved at all.
We shouldn't be. And I want to remind people. I don't think people understand what a JDAM is. So we're talking about sending 2,000-pound bombs over, which are JDAMs, right? We know what they are. We've used them in Afghanistan. I want people to understand that this is the type of munition that you're sending, and these guys are pretty close to it. But imagine this is out in the middle of nowhere in Afghanistan. By the way, this is out in the fields. Like there's very little in the way of civilian infrastructure, and this is the kind of fighting we were doing. They are in a massive metropolitan, densely populated civilian center, and these are the types of munitions that they're
Oh my God!
Now, a JDAM is one of the biggest munitions that you can use in combat. One of, and we used a lot of them in Afghanistan because we were trying to take out tunnels in the mountainsides.
Mm-hmm.
I get why they want to use them, because they want to use them for the tunnels underneath the city. The problem is, it's in a city. It's in a city, right? So it's like just want to point that out there to people to understand why it's such a big deal. Like, we're not even talking about the artillery shells and how they will bomb the place with them. That's a whole different scenario. But we're talking about the biggest munitions that we have that we send that are used concurrently in most conflicts the U.S. has been in.
Yep. I mean, what's that other big one that was used not too long ago? The Moab? How big is that? Is that bigger than the JDAM?
Yeah.
Because JDAMs are used to penetrate first and then explode. Right. So
yeah, mother of all bombs. That's right.
Yeah. When we talked about K system, with the JDAM, if I remember right.
Yeah, JDAM's
penetrates
big,
first.
The Moab's the biggest.
And then the Moab. Now, if they were getting Moab, good Lord have mercy. The Moab is no joke. Look at that.
There you go.
This is a Moab.
Like I said, again, this is out in the middle of Afghanistan, in the middle of nowhere.
Look at that.
Woo! Sounds like secondaries, but yeah. No, this is still a JDAM. I don't think I have the Moab. I think we've only used the Moab like a couple of different times.
Yeah, they used it.
I don't know if we have any footage of it.
But yeah, Moab will shut you up real fast.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, these are the types of munitions that we're sending to Israel in the first place to use in civilian centers. Like, we're just being realistic here. Like, it would have been easier if U.S. forces did this in Fallujah, if we just flattened the ground without any care for civilian casualties.
Those mountain
which
ranges
is what they said we did.
So familiar when you showed that mountain, that JDAM hitting it.
It hit you with the
Yeah.
with the stuff. Yeah, not fun. I know. It's like, but this is what they're doing. So I want to bring this up. The reason why I bring this up is because I want to show you this reporting from the Wall Street Journal, showing the movement of civilians and how the Israelis have been conducting this operation in the first place, right? So like this is very important, and if we get hit with it, we get hit with it. I don't care, because this is a very important report, and people need to understand that what they're telling you on the TV and what they're showing you and what they're saying behind closed doors, especially in Congress, isn't the same thing as what is actually happening on the ground. So they'll say that Israel needs these things because we already gave them the money. Well, we shouldn't have given them money in the first place. I'll always be straight with you. And I give Israel the right to defend themselves, but at this point, you're not defending yourself. Like I said, you're going into his house, killing his family, and then burning it down. That's not self-defense anymore. That's just straight up murder.
This satellite image shows the sprawling refugee camps in Rafah, at Gaza's southern border. As of early March, more than 1 million people, the majority of Gaza's displaced population, are sheltering here.
So this is where they're at right now. This is what they have been telling the Palestinians to do from the beginning. It's like they came from the north and they said, you got to move south. You got to move south. You got to move south. And that's what they've been doing. They've been systematically pushing civilians to the south, right? And so this is the last place that they've congregated. They have nowhere else to go unless they push them into Egypt, which is my conspiracy theory here. I think that's what they want to do. I think they want to push as many civilian Palestinians into Egypt as possible. Because there's nothing up here. Like you'll see later in the video, there's nothing left of this place. This is the size of Manhattan, by the way. Manhattan Island. This is what we're talking about.
As ceasefire talks have stalled and an Israeli ground offensive in Rafah looms, there's no clear plan for where all the people will go. Gaza's main northern city, Gaza City, was home to a little over 1 million people before the start of the war. Soon after October 7th, Israel began launching airstrikes there in response to Hamas's attack. Satellite images show damage to buildings throughout northern Gaza over time.
Like I said before, like imagine if we had done that to Fallujah, just flattened it to the ground like this.
Yep.
Which would have been much easier. We would have lost a lot less people in Fallujah if we had done that.
It would have been war crimes.
Yeah.
Eventually.
But this isn't a war crime. This is defending yourself, by the way.
Yeah.
This is what they're arguing with you. This is not a war crime. This is self-defense.
And that's one thing that I can at least speak for the U.S. military, is that we try to limit the amount of collateral damage. You know, this is why we do a lot more precision attacks. You know, so we think about everything around it because we understand if we destroy it, we have to rebuild it. We don't just destroy stuff and leave.
Oh, God. Which is exactly what they're going to do. You think the Israelis are going to rebuild this place?
Oh, no.
Yeah, they're going to make U.S. rebuild it, by the way. That's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make the U.S. go in there for humanitarian aid. That's what they're going to call it. Humanitarian aid. And we're going to be the ones responsible for cleaning this shit up.
Yep.
Gazans began fleeing south. Streams of people left Gaza City by foot on Salah al-Din Road, a central evacuation route.
شردنا على مكان تاني، المدرسة التانية قصفوها، شردنا على مراكز خاصة، حكونا المراكز الخاصة بتنقصف.
Many went to Han Yunis. This November 30th satellite image shows the UNRWA's Han Yunis camp. This facility was the largest refugee camp in southern Gaza. To the left, a tent city sprung up to accommodate the overflow of displaced people. By mid-December, more than 1 million displaced people from the north moved into camps in Middle Gaza, Han Yunis, and Rafah.
Right.
By mid-January, nearly 800,000 people were sheltering in the Han Yunis region. Around the same time, Israeli forces circled Han Yunis and instructed residents and refugees to evacuate again. This image from early February shows the camp's...
Yeah, so the guy on Dr. Phil said all Palestinians are essentially Hamas. True or not true? No. That's like saying that... That's like saying a lot of things, like saying that all right-wingers are extremists. It's the same thing. It's the same ideology. It doesn't matter what group of people you put it on. Are there some people that support Hamas? Sure, there are. But there's also some people that support Hamas in the United States. But it doesn't mean that all the people that are living in Palestine are the same as Hamas. They're just trying to live their life just like anybody else. Like it's a bad way to start thinking of people like that. That's
Yep. And that's the problem with, the media is that they label everybody with this broad brush. And we're supposed to think based off what we see on the TV, we're supposed to think this group is bad, this group is good. But on both sides, there are people that actually want peace, that get along, that enjoy each other's company. They don't talk about those people that are calling for all this to stop. They only show the extreme.
Exactly. And I just want to tell, like, what we do on the Savage Patriots in here, even if it's a hard truth, we try to tell you the truth. This is the truth, right? Is that Israel is using the cover of self-defense to push out a group of ethnic people out of a place, right? So they were destroying their livelihoods, their home. They put people into poverty, and they're starving children. Like, war starves people. Don't get it twisted, right? Like, these people are doing this, actively doing this. There's nothing we can really say that this is what war is, and this is why we don't like war, is because it doesn't help anyone. It just helps people make money. And there's only a certain amount of people that make money and everybody else that suffers. So civilians suffer when governments decide they want to throw their dicks around. That's what it really comes down to.
Completely cleared out.
That is very true.
As Israeli operations spread throughout the Gaza Strip, southern Gaza, and Rafah in particular, became the last safe place to go. This mid-October image shows Rafah a few weeks into the war. The city was home to roughly 300,000 residents. Over the following months, as refugees fled other areas, the population in Rafah increased dramatically, with an estimated 1.5 million people along the southern border as of the end of February. Satellite imagery shows almost every open space in Rafah covered in tents and temporary shelters. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu now says a ground operation here is imminent. He's ordered the military to draw up plans to relocate the entire population. For the nearly 2 million displaced
And that's the thing, is they want to relocate the civilians, but where? Where are they going to relocate these guys? Where are they supposed to go? Like I said, it's like I get you, Retro. I get you, for sure. Like, and that's why I'm trying to explain this to people, because like it's become such a left-right issue that people are forgetting to actually see the truth of what the reality is. Is that like, people try to view it through history lens, like who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. None of these people are good. Let's just get that out of your mind right now. Look at it objectively. This is what the reality is, right? Israel responded to an attack on them. That was okay. They were defending themselves, but they have moved past the point of being self-defense, and they're engaging in an activity that is displacing an entire ethnic group of people, which they wanted to do anyway. Let's be honest, right? So like government individuals in the Knesset and also in Bibi's administration want a plan to remove Palestinians. That's not all Israelis. We're talking about specific people in the Israeli government. Like we said, we talk about governments, we don't talk about people. We were talking about individuals making decisions for people of a population, right? Same thing with Biden and his decisions and what they do that are detrimental to us, like the border crisis, for instance, is him making a decision that is causing harm to others. That's what we're talking about here. And the reason I brought this video up is to show you the reason why it is so important that we shouldn't have been involved in this in the first place, because now we are responsible for funding this.
Yep.
And that's why he's like, oh, I'm finally going to not give them weapons. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. You shouldn't have pushed Congress to approve this money in the first place. Like, that's the biggest issue with this whole thing, is that they shouldn't have done it in the first place. Like, we've been hardliners on that from the beginning.
And I know a lot of people ask the question, like, these two guys are vets. They've been in the war. They got multiple tours under their belt. But we were two guys that saw it firsthand. And just because we fought in a war doesn't mean we're pro-war. You know, we're not sick, sadistic people. You know, I'm very anti-war, very, very anti-war. So when it comes to America, our government hypes it up to get the American people behind a conflict that they're funding, but they don't know what they're funding.
Yeah.
You're funding murder on both sides. Now, do I believe that people have the right to self-defense, as Coy stated earlier? Of course, you always have the right to defend your country and your people. But
there's
what
a
he's
line.
saying is there is a line. When you're going in there just indiscriminately bombing and destroying for no reason, no threat, then we have a problem with that. And the American people have to understand is that's what we're funding.
Yeah.
We're not funding just self-defense anymore. We're actually funding on both sides. Don't care. Pick a conflict. We're funding the destruction of a people who want nothing but to be left alone in peace. Are the radicals? Yes, we always get rid of the radicals.
Right. We have it's true. We have both radicals in Israel and Palestine that want to be genocidal maniacs to each other, which I've said before. There are people that want to do both things, but the problem is these people with these ideologies are being caught in between. In between them is civilians who have nothing to do with this.
Yep.
And losing their livelihoods and home. We've been fighting with the left for ages, but you wouldn't want your entire neighborhood J-damned and bombed to oblivion just because two people you have no involvement with are fighting.
Yep. I mean, think about this.
Thing.
You know, you have a lot of violent neighborhoods in America. A lot of violent neighborhoods where whole neighborhoods are just violent. What if the cops just went in there and just started indiscriminately burning down everyone's house? Even if they're innocent, they're not a violent person. They just happen to be caught in the middle. And the cops went through and bulldozed everyone's house. It was like, sorry, this neighborhood is dangerous. We got to get rid of it. Sorry, you're caught in the middle. This is what Coy is saying. There are people caught in the middle. You know, they have nothing to do with this. They don't care. They're just living their lives, but they're caught in the middle of this stuff, and their homes are getting destroyed and they're getting ran out their homes for something that they're not even involved in.
Yeah.
Because we're labeling a whole group of people under the same umbrella on both sides. There are people on both sides that don't want this.
Yep. This is what I've been saying is like, do I think also with Carol asking if do you think the hostages are dead? Yeah, they're dead. They're absolutely dead. Here's my reason why I say that, because they were trying to do the ceasefire agreement with Hamas. Hamas actually already capitulated. They said they would give up the rest of the hostages, which is what Israel said they wanted, right? The reason why they're going in to Rafah was to rescue the hostages. They were going to give them the hostages, all of them, in order for a ceasefire to continue. But apparently it wasn't good enough for the Israelis, so they said no, and they're going to invade anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it's no longer about a ceasefire or self-defense. It's about completing their objectives. They don't care about those hostages. They never did. Because look at how they've operated the war. I've just showed you satellite footage of all of these neighborhoods bombed to oblivion. Do you think in any of these bombing campaigns, they cared about the hostages? Most of them probably died through bombing. It wasn't from Hamas. They probably did buy from Hamas, but I'm saying the more likelihood is they were probably bombed to death.
And they probably didn't even know where the hostages were when they were bombing.
Oh, I'm sure they had no clue.
Yeah,
I'm sure they had no clue. They didn't care.
And understand this about any type of war, any type of conflict. If money wasn't involved, would they have these conflicts? The only reason these conflicts happen, and there are times, especially when tribal stuff, there's no money involved. It's just defending yourself. But big countries, big wars like this, we wouldn't even be doing this if there was no money involved. If they weren't backed by big dollars to do this war. They know it. We know it. We all know it. Money, big money's involved.
Yeah.
Until the money's gone, it's never going to stop.
Exactly. And so, like you said, he's like, you thought they were dead too. Yeah. So did I. Because like I said, it's not about the hostages. The hostages are a secondary concern. They don't really care. It's about completing the objective for both sides. Hostages are a means to an end for Hamas, and the same thing with Israel. It gives them an excuse to continue the war. Hamas had them in order to get leverage over Israel, but the problem is Israel doesn't care about them anymore, and so they don't have any leverage. Hence why the ceasefire didn't work, because they don't care.
Exactly.
And so I wanted to talk more about this, but I want to leave one last thing before we head out of here, is the fact that they are using, the Biden administration is committing something that they already tried to convict Trump over in the first place.
That explosive government watchdog report says the president broke the law, overriding Capitol Hill by freezing that military aid to Ukraine, pointing out he cannot substitute his own policy priorities for those that Congress has enacted into law.
So remember that. We'll talk about this probably later, maybe next week, about this. is the fact that Biden is stopping congressional funding that has already been approved, even though this is exactly what they impeached Donald Trump over.
Yeah.
So are they going to impeach Biden? Probably not. Probably.
Yeah, and they bet on, like we said before, they count on the uninformed, forgetful Americans that won't remember this, that will forget about it. But we're here to remind you that they're hypocrites, and they blame Donald Trump for one thing. They try to prosecute him for one thing, which while they're doing the same exact thing that they're trying to get him for.
Yep.
So we're going to call him out every single time.
Like I said, that's the whole point of the show is like, yeah, it might be uncomfortable to point out the obvious truths to people, but I mean, that's the reason why we exist, is because we're trying to tell you the truth. We're not trying to lie to you. Like we could be just like every other right commentator who is like all for Israel no matter what they do, and we're not like that, because like we see what the reality of the ground is. We know how wars are fought. Dude, like they're not, that's not what they're doing. They're just not. It's the same thing with anything. Like Donald Trump, here's my other criticism, defending Johnson from getting ousted by Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mistake. That is absolutely a mistake. He should not be defending Johnson, but he is. And so like, that's the truth of the matter, is like, he shouldn't be defending a swamp creature who doesn't care about him, who would be leading the charge to impeach him if it ever went against what he wanted, or the deep state wanted.
Would. But hey, we're here to spread truth, and we give our opinion on a lot of things. We really, even though we're conservative based podcasts, we don't just buy into, the gung ho, I'm right till, I'm right, no matter what they do. No, we will call you out, right, left, in between, gay, straight, black, white. We don't care. A right is a right and a wrong is a wrong. That's all we care
just try
about.
to tell you how we see it.
Yeah.
That's it. Anyway, we will be on tomorrow with the Savage Patriots. What were we talking about again? I got to remind myself. Oh yeah, the Herschel Weinrod.
Oh yeah, that guy that did
what was he director of?
Space Jam.
So he was the director of Space Jam.
Yeah, got caught.
And got caught with a 15-year-old, wasn't it? Or 16? Was it 15 or 16? Does it
15.
matter?
15 years. It doesn't matter. 15, 16, doesn't matter. But got caught.
Yeah, so just showing how Hollywood is still a gross place.
Yep.
So
hey, I'm gonna talk to Marlon too about. I think we should talk about the Met Gala too. How that's getting a lot of heat with these rich elitists who think we're in the Hunger Games or something. While there's millions and millions of people starving, they're paying $75,000 to get in at $300,000 for a table. While they're not required to help anybody. But they get up there on their high horse and talking about all the injustice in America and this, that, and the other, while you're spending all this money to go to some fancy dinner when you could be taking that money and helping people. Put your money where your mouth is.
Right.
So I think we should make fun of them too, because celebrities are useless.
They are always useless.
They're useless.
So here, I'll show you the preview for tomorrow. This is what we're going to be talking about. It's Herschel Weinrod. So go in, make sure to hit the notification bell, like, subscribe to us. If you're on the Hooch page right now, you can go down into the featured channels and you can find the Savage Patriots right there and click the link. So it's not hard to find anybody. Get on our link tree, find all our links, like and share, subscribe, do all the usual things that you do. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow night. We love you, America. And we
are
out.
War.